Alright, so our first lesson is the Year A business class. The uni lesson is about the taxation. So the first dimension is the quality learning environment, and the element we choose is the engagement. So to sustain engagement further, I used a short animated video about a monkey working in a banana factory to teach tax types. So the humorous storyline introduces income tax, GST, and company tax using visuals that simplify complex financial processes. So students find monkeys and food settings relatable and entertaining, improving emotional connection to content. So visual representation is especially effective for abstract economic topics. So the classroom practice guide confirms that multimodality supports comprehension by reducing cognitive load and providing multiple pathways for meaning making. So here, students can simultaneously hear explanations, watch characters pay taxes, and read simplified labels. So this strengthens processing efficiency. Middle year learners often struggle when topics feel disconnected from personal experience by showing text in a playful, accessible format. The video frames learning as fun and achievable. Killen emphasizes that students' attention increases when lessons feel meaningful and enjoyable. Additionally, multimedia aligns with adolescents' digital literacies, validating the ways they naturally learn outside school. Importantly, the video was not passive entertainment. Students had specific retrieval tasks from the TPS phase, requiring them to identify who pays each text tab and record their ideas afterward. So this aligns with the active viewing mode of engagement. Students watch with intention. When answers were checked post viewing, students compared evidence to predictions, supporting self assessment and building confidence. So using humor also supports classroom belonging, lowering stress when learning unfamiliar terminology. Year A students are more likely to take intellectual risks when the environment feels supportive and enjoyable. This directly contributes to engagement as a QDM element. So therefore, the multimodal video plays a crucial role. It lowers complexity, increases enjoyment, supports comprehension, and maintains attention, ensuring students are mentally involved in the task. So next strategy is called think, pair, share. So to activate engagement, I implemented think, pair, share before the taxation video. Students were shown two getting questions: which texts will appear and who placed them. So they first thought independently, then discussed with a partner, and later shared with the group. So this structures social interaction, focused attention on specific learning outcomes before the video began. So the quality teaching framework states that engagement increases when students anticipate and seek specific information. So TPS prompts students to generate hypotheses, which builds curiosity and provides a purposeful watching. According to Killen, pre-listening tasks improve comprehension and ensure students take responsibility for extracting meaning. So this strategy strongly aligns with middle years characteristics. Young adolescents are socially motivated, enjoy exchanging ideas with peers, and feel more willing to speak after checking their thinking with one partner. So TPS therefore reduces performance anxiety and supports equity by allowing every student to rehearse responses rather than relying on a few confident learners. So furthermore, TBS gives insight into student misconceptions. When partners share, their disagreements become instructional opportunities, allowing the teacher to adjust prompting during the clip. So this real-time formative assessment keeps engagement high because students understand their ideas matter and affect the direction of discussion. So the combination of anticipation, interaction, and accountability makes TPS a powerful engagement strategy, especially when introducing new economic language like GST and income tax. It ensures active mental processing rather than passive watching. So students are not simply identifying terms, they're verifying whether their predictions match what they see. This strengthens motivation, attention, and a comprehension of complex concepts. All right, so the next dimension is the intellectual quality, and the element we choose is the substantive communication. So the first strategy is called collaborative concept mapping, and in this lesson, I intentionally implemented collaborative concepts mapping to promote substantive communication. So taxation is an abstract economic concept that involves multiple relationships between people, government, revenue collection, and public services delivery. So to support deeper understanding, students create a tax system web to visually represent the flow of purpose of tax revenue. In the lesson, I place tax in the center and require students to add connected circles for people, government, public services, different type of tax, and fairness, and to use arrows to show who pays, who collects, and who benefits. So this design transforms knowledge from discrete facts into a logical structure that students co-construct through communication. So this directly aligns with the intellectual quality dimension because students are required to verbalize reasoning, negotiate meaning, and justify why each connection exists. Instead of writing isolated notes, students discuss and evaluate the consequences of taxation policies, including fairness. Who benefits most from public services? What happens if citizens stop paying tax? So, these probe questions push students to evaluate cause, effect, rather than recall definitions. So, research strongly supports the effectiveness of collaborative representation tasks. The NSW quality teaching model emphasizes that rich discussion helps learners engage in higher order thinking and deepen conceptual understanding. So similarly, Keelan argues that communication and explanation help students consolidate complex content. So the classroom practice guide states that concept mapping supports students to visualize relationships and increases clarity in subjects such as economics where systematic thinking is essential. So importantly, this approach responds to middle years needs. Young adolescents are highly social learners who build confidence and motivation through peer interaction. Mapping encourages participation from quieter students as ideas are negotiated together, reducing anxiety about being wrong. So it also allows students to draw on prior experiences with fairness and public services, enhancing relevance and personal engagement. By the end of the task, students demonstrate deeper learning by being able to explain the tax system, not just name tax types. So therefore, collaborative concept mapping effectively delivers substantive communication, supports the development of economic reasoning, and meets the developmental characteristics of Year A learners. So the second strategy is called structured vocabulary framing. We use sentence starters for economic reasoning. So we use the sentence starters such as the tax work because the government uses tax money too, and the public services benefit people by blah blah blah. So these terms were introduced when students were first asked to explain the purpose of the government collecting tax. The goal was to help students construct clear cause effect explanations and organize their arguments in a structured manner. So this strategy provides linguistic support so students can engage in deeper reasoning and articulate economic concepts using appropriate terminology. So this approach directly aligns with the intellectual quality dimension, which emphasizes that students must move beyond listing facts toward communicating coherent ideas. So without structured language support, Year 8 students may offer incomplete answers such as government needs money without explaining why or how. So the sentence starters prompt them to express relationships explicitly, connecting tax revenue, public goods, and social fairness. So according to Killen, guided language structures promote clarity of reasoning and help students communicate complex concepts more confidently. This strategy is also essential for supporting equitable participation and linguistic access. The classroom practice guide highlights that scaffolding improves communication outcomes for diverse learners, including EALD students, by providing a functional model for academic discourse. So when students have the language to express their ideas, they are more willing to participate in high-level dialogue. In addition, this strategy aligns strongly with middle years developmental characteristics. Students at this stage are transitioning from concrete to abstract thinking and benefit from clear frameworks to support expression. So the sentence starters validate their emerging voice by giving them confidence to contribute to civic conversations. Explaining taxation principles become not only possible but meaningful. Students feel like their reasoning matters in the adult world. So, by requiring students to use academic discourse, this strategy ensures that communication remains focused, logical, and connected to key learning intentions. All right. So, the last dimension is the significance, and the element we choose is the background knowledge. So the hook at the beginning of the lesson was intentionally designed around students' family financial experiences by calculating hourly wages. I asked, if your parent earns $150 this week, do they receive all $150? So this immediately connects taxation to something students care deeply about, the money and family. So adolescents have limited earning experiences, but they consistently observe transactions, receipts, and household budgeting. So the mention of GST, something printed on every shopping slip, activates tangible existing knowledge. So the significance dimension stresses that learning becomes meaningful when it draws from students' everyday lives. Keelan notes that contextualizing new knowledge helps students understand the purpose of learning rather than memorizing content. So when students realize tax affects their parents' salaries and their own purchases, economic concepts become relevant and understandable. So this strategy also builds conceptual readiness. Before students can understand tax fairness, progressive tax, or government services, they must grasp the idea that money flows from individuals to the government. So the hook positions the lesson as solving a real-life mystery. Where does the missing money go? Additionally, this approach supports the socio-emotional nature of middle years learning. Identity and autonomy are emerging, and the students are curious about civic systems that influence their lives. By validating their observations, like hearing parents complain about taxes, I foster a sense of competence and belonging in the learning process. So therefore, the salary GST hook ensures taxation is not an abstract policy topic, but a personally urgent and socially relevant aspect of life. So the final strategy supporting background knowledge was activating students' fairness instincts. After mapping, I posed questions like, is the system fair for everyone? Should rich people pay more? Who benefits most? So fairness is a powerful motivator for adolescents. They naturally evaluate social system through moral judgment as part of identity development. So because students already have opinions about fairness in school and the community settings, asking them to apply these instincts to taxation reveals prior knowledge that textbooks often ignore. So this aligns with significance in the QDM, as meaningful learning requires connecting with students' values, interests, and experiences. So these questions create emotional engagement, transforming taxation from a policy topic into a personal justice issue. What is right? Who deserves help? So this helps students understand public goods and the redistributive system in a way that is both academic and relatable. The brief end of lesson sharing supported this emotional investment while building confidence in communicating opinions. So middle years pedagogy stresses that middle year pedagogy stresses that motivation increases when students see relevance to real life concerns. So, fairness framing also supports equity by validating diverse cultural perspective in the classroom. So, therefore, fairness questioning taps into existing intuitive knowledge, makes learning emotionally significant, builds civic awareness and social responsibility, and finally boosts motivation to engage in future lessons on taxation. And that's all for the dimensions and elements.